Oh, we're on. All right. So we're kicking things off today. And, we really just want to know how many of you have been on a call before with a potential client and you have heard these things. I don't have any money. I need to talk to my spouse. I need to think about it.
When it comes to having a conversation, think about it like this. You get out there, you've done some marketing, you've worked on your packages, you've worked on your program, you put a post out there, maybe you did some paid advertising, somebody clicked on it, someone came to your thing, they saw that you've got something going on, they signed up. Next thing you know, you made an invitation to connect with you either on a phone call, in person, or on Zoom. They show up, you have a conversation with them, and they don't enroll, and they throw one of the big three objections at you. Got no money, I got to talk to my spouse, or I got to think about it. Yep. If you're getting those objections, I can guarantee you it has to do with your enrollment muscles, and it's something that we need to strengthen. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's series, A Crash Course in Constraints. And this is the fourth and final episode, part number 4, enrolling. And this is how we're going to get more of the right people saying yes at the right price. So if you're watching this now or you're watching this later, I want you to comment below how many of you would like to get more of the right people saying yes at the right price. Comment yes below. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into. Because if you think about it, we've got 3 constraints out there that are affecting the wellness industry. And that's what this series is all about overcoming. That first constraint, well, it's impact. And that happens when the people coming in aren't getting amazing results because they're not following protocols, or there's just not enough people walking into the shop, in the door. They're not coming in. Number 2, we have time constraints. And this happens when you're working too much in the business and not on the business, and you literally own a job instead of like owning a business with systems and things like that, which we want to help you with. Or there's no time for life outside of work, or there's no time for anything else because of constraint number 3. And those are cash flow constraints, meaning that your profit margins are low, usually below 50, 60, 70%, or there's just not enough cash coming in. So these are the biggest constraints out there affecting the wellness industry. And this is something you'd like to learn how to overcome. If you haven't watched part 1, structure, where we talked about how to get the best amazing results for your patients and clients in the shortest period of time, you should probably go watch that. Because if you don't set things up properly, nothing we talk about here in the enrolling is going to make much sense. And then part 2 is all about messaging. That's about how to communicate your true value. So anything you say in a conversation, or you write in an email or a post or a letter or an ad or whatever it might be, takes people from who the heck is this practitioner person to thank you for taking my credit card, but doing it in a very high integrity, ethical way so people can really see your value. And then number 3 is marketing. So if you think about it like this, if structure is the quote unquote proverbial shop that we're setting up, messaging is the sign, then marketing is where we put the sign. It's like there are tons of marketing strategies out there. It's not a one size fits all, guys. Some people use a webinar funnel. Some people use group funnels. Some people don't use funnels at all. We're big proponents of learning how to communicate your true value to your warm network and not using funnels at all, which is super, super cool. So you can do this without advertising or blitzing social media or being a celebrity out there. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, once we have somebody, we got the shop, got the sign, we know where to put the sign. Now people are actually walking in the door, right? Quote unquote. What kind of conversation? What do we say? What do we say, Eléa, to get them to go from this prospect that's really interested in what we're doing to actually becoming an amazing client or patient?
Yeah. And I think, the first thing we have to talk about here is just the difference between serving versus selling. Because selling is really something that you do to someone, and serving is something that you do with someone. And our goal is really enrolling people into their dream of health, into their dream of better health. And we want to do that in the process of service, right? Serving and walking alongside them in the sales process. So I think it's really important to just kind of make sure that you're in that right frame of mind of, oh, this is not actually a sales conversation. It's a service conversation. And that for me was a huge, huge shift, especially for a lot of people that I speak to that are health and wellness professionals. And they're like, I'm not a good salesman. I'm not good at sales. Like, how am I supposed to do this? Right. So I think that's number 1, is get your head in the right space.
Well, and it makes sense because it is technically a sales conversation. Right. At the end, if this is a person that you can legitimately help and you like them, you're probably going to invite them in. So there's going to be a sales transaction. But what Ellie is talking about here, it's really important to get your intention off of your bank account, to get your intention off of your business and really put it on the person who needs help. Because right now they've got a health problem that hasn't been fixed probably by our traditional sickness-based healthcare. I mean, they're managing and mitigating the symptoms, but are they really getting well? Are they getting to the root cause? And the likelihood is not. And that's why they're reaching out to you. So we really have to put our intention on the serving of helping another human being and seeing if we can really help get them to where they want to be on their own path up Success Mountain. Because gosh knows, a lot of them have tried to get up to the top of this thing with their health, but they keep falling off and going back to the bottom. Now, once we get our intention in the right place, serving over selling, then we have 5 rules of engagement, which are really important. And if you don't follow these 5 rules, no conversation is going to end very well. I mean, you might enroll 1 or 2 people there, but you're just not going to enroll a lot. And the first rule is number 1, first and foremost, is do they actually have a problem you can fix, right? When you get out there as a wellness expert, and because we're tipping the scales from sickness to wellness, you're going to notice a lot of people are going to get on your calendar if you communicate your true value the right way. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch part 2 on messaging and how important that is. But when you do that, they do show up, but you will not be able to help them all. For a great example is Ellie and I, we've got our fatigue program. You know, Move, Think, Smile was based on wellness and fatigue and tired, getting people's energy back and burnout, stuff like that. But we would have people show up that did have the problem that was due to lifestyle problems or lifestyle change and lifestyle choices. And then we would have some people show up that were just completely out of everything. Like they had some kind of trauma that we couldn't fix, or they had like stage 3 cancer, which was out of our ballpark, or things like that. So first and foremost, do they actually have a problem you can fix? That's in rules of engagement number 1. Number 2, do they understand and accept the truth of the problem? The truth of the problem. And this is where a lot of people are sugarcoating where they're at because they're normalizing it. And a great example, LA, would be what? Diabetes.
Yeah. I mean, a slew of diseases, right? It's so easy to normalize. A lot of diseases are progressive. They don't just happen overnight. And so feeling terrible starts to feel normal. And yes, do they really understand how much this is impacting their life? And, you know, I got to say, Adam, you know, your example or what you talked about earlier, when we first started with the fatigue offer, we really realized that our ideal client, on average, they were losing 2 to 3 hours a day to poor productivity, just feeling burnt out and exhausted and, you know, unmotivated. And so we realized that's 45 days a year that burnout and fatigue were taking from them. And when we would talk to potential clients and when we would share this kind of information with them, they would be like, their minds would be blown, because they had normalized and they hadn't seen it from that perspective before. So I think, you know, this is such an important piece, along with what Adam, you said, the very first one, which is really understanding their problem in depth, really making sure you're asking the powerful questions to know for sure that this is something that you can help.
Now, when we say the truth of the problem is, do they understand what's really going to happen to them if they do not overcome this health or wellness challenge? Whether it's a disease, a dysfunction, a syndrome, or something else going on. Do they really understand the truth of the problem? That means that if I don't lower my A1C score and I'm diabetic, it's going to get worse. It always does. People who manage their diabetes always manage it into something worse. It is a gateway disease, right? It's kind of like the entry level one. And then like my stepfather, he managed it right into leukemia. So that's what happened. Like he had just stuff going on. Now, when you understand the truth of the problem, it's like they have to know this, because if they're not emotionally connected to the outcome, and we don't need people crying on the phone and things like that, but they really have to understand what's going on. They have to understand, if they don't fix this and if they don't hire you, what the alternative is. And the alternative is almost always not good. So that's rule of engagement number 2. Number 3 is, are you going to love working with them? Are they going to be cool to work with? Because if you invite somebody in and you're like, my gut's kind of saying this might be kind of a challenging one, what does it always do, Eléa?
Yeah, it's always a bad idea. It's always a bad idea. Because, as you know, working with someone, you want to really be their champion. You want to really be able to get behind them. And a lot of times too, if you're questioning, then it's really better for both the potential client and for you that it's not the right fit. And that's a really important distinction to make.
Right. And then number 4 rule of engagement, when you're enrolling, having a conversation, you need to go over the resources that they have. And I'm not talking about financial resources. I'm talking about, do they have the resources needed to win quick? Because if you watch our first episode and Crash Course in Strengths, Part 1 structure, it's all about setting it up so you're getting your patient or client a win, a noticeable, tangible win in the first like 5 to maybe 14 days. Like really quick win. So they notice it. So they want to keep working with you. And there are some very specific ways to do that. And do they have the resources to do that? So here's what I mean. Let's say part of your thing is they've got to get on a treadmill and be able to walk 5 miles a day. So you need to make sure that they've got a treadmill nearby. Like, do they own a treadmill? If not, do they have a Planet Fitness they can go to that's got treadmills? If they live in the middle of the desert with nothing around, then they're not going to have a quick win. So you're probably not going to want to invite them in because they have the resources to have that quick win. So that's number 4. Number 5, do they believe you're the best option to serve up the transformational result? Do they believe you are the best and only option out there right now? And if you learn how to structure this conversation by asking the right questions and engaging with the person, you will empower them to make the decision and to realize that you are that right person. So the question I have for everybody right now, and I want you to type in a comment below, who wants more of the right people saying yes at the right price without having to sell a single thing? Put that in the box below. When I say right people, I mean the ones that are showing up, and we talked about this earlier in structure, decisive, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired and they're ready to get their health back and they're ready to get it back now. The big C, committed, right? Because all the human beings out there, we're all committed to something. They're either committed to their doubts and their fears and their excuses, or they're committed to winning, to doing whatever it takes to win with their health, to get it back. And of course, they've got to be resourceful too. And resourceful means, do they have the resources to do what you need them to do, to follow protocol? And also, do they realize that the time that they spend with you is the path of victory? Doing what you tell them to do is how they're going to win with their health. And do they also realize that there's no price to work with you, that there's no cost to have your help? Instead, it's an investment that has a huge payback on the rest of their life. And do they believe that in their heart? And that's what I mean by the right people. And the right price, well, we talked about that structure too. That's where we're setting a price at $3,000, $4,000, sometimes $5, $10, even $15,000 for your transformational services. And again, I'm going to go back to diabetes because we've been talking about this a lot. But in the United States, the lower 48 states, the Center of Disease Control says people that are diabetic are spending $16,750 a year out of their own pocket, even if they have insurance, just to manage the disease. That means if you got a 5K thing and you help people lower their A1C naturally, guess what? You just saved that person $12,000 in year 1. Pretty cool. $155,000 over the next 10 years. I would say that's pretty awesome. And guess what? You lower their A1C and they're getting all their energy back and all these cool things that are happening to their life that are completely priceless. So when we're doing, go ahead, Eléa.
No, I was just going to say, and I mean, I think, one thing that I see a lot is that people will say to us, well, I need to get higher quality leads, or I need to create a lower ticket option for the people that don't have any money. I need to, change this or change that. And while it might actually serve your business well to have a higher and lower ticket item, we first always want to check in on what we're talking about today, which is are your enrollment skills, because higher quality leads or people with quote unquote more money is actually not necessarily
false.
What you're looking for.
It
right.
is absolutely false.
Right. And so that is why we really want to make sure that we're diagnosing the right problem. Just like when you're working with clients and you're looking for what is the real problem going on with this person's health, this is the same strategy we have to take with your sales experience and your sales, acumen. We've got to really figure out, is it really the people that are showing up, or is it your skill level?
I can tell you right now, if you receive, I don't have any money, you receive, I got to talk to my spouse, you receive, I got to think about it. There is a really good chance, almost 99% of the time, that person does not see your value. And it has happened because you did not communicate it properly in a call. They don't, they know they have a problem, And so either they don't understand the truth of the problem, like they don't understand what it's going to happen if they don't fix it, or they do understand the truth of the problem if they don't fix it, but they don't believe you're the answer. And that always shows up, and I don't have any money. And I can tell you right now, living in South Carolina and traveling across the country in all lower 48 states, we've been in a lot of rural areas. Now, at least in South Carolina, you go out there to where all the double wide trailers are, which there's a lot of them in South Carolina, and you will usually see one of these three things in their driveway: a Mercedes, a BMW, or a Dodge Hellcat Charger, which is a $120,000 Dodge, which blows my mind to put that number with that brand. But think about it. People will pay for, they will find the resources for what they need and for what they believe and what they want. So if you're getting, I don't have any money objection. Now, there are people out there who need to be resourceful. Like they may not have it immediately available for them, but there are ways, especially in Canada, United States, for people to gather that kind of cash together. Like there's just so many options out there. And it's just, do they understand the problem? Do they understand the truth of the problem? And do they believe that you're the person to fix it? And if you're getting those objections at the end, well, you want to keep paying attention to this, because we're going to go deeper into detail on how to make sure we disarm those objections before they even show up. Now, one of the tricks here is if you have your messaging dialed in, your marketing dialed in, you'll get people already pre-sold. I don't like that term, but I don't know what else to use. Ready to buy, ready to hire you before you even chat with them. So if you've set that up properly, then the enrollment conversation becomes easy. But so many people kind of just really mess this up. So how do we get more of the right people saying yes at the right price? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use the move, think, smile, yes method. And it kind of goes like this. And I'm going to let Eléa kind of talk about it a little bit, but we're really using principles of life coaching here. And I think it's really interesting. People are like, life coaching. It's like, yeah, life coaching, and Eléa, give the description of life coaching. Like what it empowers somebody to make the right decision for themselves, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really just, it's asking questions so that your potential client can come to that realization for themselves, for sure. For sure.
Right. And so you want them to have in basically these three things instilled into the yes method. You want them to say, yes, I want to fix this. You want them to say, yes, I'm ready to fix this now, because everybody will tell you they want to fix it. Right. But then they'll blow, oh, I don't know if now's a good time. I got to go feed the cat next week and go to I don't know, take the kids to the school conference. I got all this stuff. They'll time close you. That's what that's called. They'll do that. And then they got to say yes to, I want you to help me fix this. So let me repeat. Yes, I want to fix this. Yes, I'm ready to fix this now. And yes, I want you to fix this. And if you structure your questions correctly, they will tell you those three things. And this is by having a high integrity, ethical conversation, by empowering them to see what's going on and having a really heart-to-heart conversation with some really good energy there. Now, this energy is going to come from something that we call, this is our little method here, called Dr. Heart Dream Detective. Now, think about it like this. Dr. Heart, this is going to be the feminine energy showing up in the room. And we want to balance it with the masculine. Because if you go in with too much feminine energy, which this is the problem we see, Eléa. I mean, would you agree with this? We see this mostly in wellness. Like in the wellness space, there are so many people who are so many compassion and caring. They want to help people. And they go with so much feminine energy, but then they just blow the sale or they can't make any money.
Yes, yes. And I think it is the challenge to balance the two. And you can't go in completely, with too much confidence and or too much pushiness and boldness, but you also have to be careful about how much caring and compassion that you bring in. You're right, Adam. I mean, most of the people that we work with really have to work on bringing more of the masculine energy, because that feminine energy is part of what makes them so incredible at helping people transform their health.
Well, let's talk about the feminine energy. This is Dr. Heart. This is what you'll hear people call it, the doctor frame. You're sick. You go into the doctor. Doctor's like, okay, where does it hurt? Where else does it hurt? How long has this been going on? Stuff like that. But what I want you guys to pay attention to is these are the 4 C's. And we have caring, that you actually care about the person, what's happening. You have compassion for what's going on with them. You have concern over what's been happening, and you're curious about how they've been handling it so far. Those are the 4 C's of femininity. Now, then we have Dream Detective. This is where the masculine energy comes in the room. And I'm not talking about being a jerk. There is some confidence in there. There's clarity, there's certainty, and there's congruity. So you have got to believe in yourself and that you're confident in what you do. And I know most of you watching this right now are good at what you do, but do you show up on the call or on a Zoom or in a waiting room or having an interview with somebody, a potential patient, a potential client, with that confidence that you know what you're doing, that if they meet the requirements that you could absolutely help them? Number two, are you being crystal clear on exactly how you're going to help them? And we'll talk about that in the next step. And then certainty. Do you know with absolute 100% certainty that your process works? And most of you, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I mean, the process for all of us is very, very similar, right? And it's get rid of the poison in the person's life, give them some good food, get them moving outside in the sun a little bit, get some water, get some good sleep. And that usually fixes most lifestyle diseases right there, right? It's really about that behavior change. And of course, you add in supplements or whatever just to get over big humps and things like that. So Dr. Hart, Dream Detective, if you're not showing up and learning how to balance the feminine with the masculine, Eléa, what ends up happening?
Well, you end up struggling to get new clients and patients. You end up running up against a lot of objections, and it just makes the whole process a lot more difficult. So the amazing thing about this is really understanding, okay, that, caring, compassion, and concern, the feminine, the masculine, more of that confidence, clarity, and certainty, and really being able to merge the two and knowing when you need to bring what energy at what part of the call. And so this really becomes a dance. It's honestly it's like a masterpiece that you're creating. And this is why, and when you look at your sales conversations, your enrollment conversations like this, you can really step into something that's more powerful than feeling like, I don't know if I can sell, or I'm not good at that. You change the conversation and start to realize that everything you know about health and everything you know about transformation can actually apply to your sales conversations. And that's really, really important, I think, especially for health and wellness experts, because they want to be able to see life through that lens. And so if they can see sales through that lens, it's going to empower, everyone who's watching this so much more.
So when we're getting in there and we're being Dr. Hart, Dream Detective, so Dr. Hart's usually going to show up at the top, right, at the beginning of a conversation with somebody, just like, okay, tell me what's going on, what's happening, where's it going? There's a very specific way to structure those questions in the syntax you're using to make sure that they are going to answer them and they feel empowered. So there's no pushiness here. We're definitely not gonna be a jerk, right? So I just want to make sure that a lot of people think masculine means like really being pushy, or like, can't you see what's happening? It's like, don't do that. Don't do that. We got to remove guilt. We got to remove shame. We got to remove all that stuff. Now, once we get to the person, let's say they do have a problem we can help them fix. We've determined that. They've got to the truth of the problem. They understand that. And we've determined that I think this is going to be a great person to work with. Like, I think I'm going to like working with them. It's not going to be a challenging one. They're going to show up. They're going to follow protocol. They're not going to question what I do. They're not going to complain. They're not going to go missing in action, all that kind of stuff. I think this is going to work. Then the next step is you've got to establish a very clear path to victory. You've got to get 100% buy-in that your specific process will help them overcome their disease or dysfunction or syndrome. Let me say that again. You've got to get 100% their buy-in. They must say yes, yes, and believe 100% in their heart that your path to victory is the solution they've been looking for. And path to victory is our code for your process, your system, your method, your, hate the P word, program, whatever you want to call it. That's the path to victory. And this is, and Eléa talked about this is where so many people just crumble.
Yeah, I think this is really important, because what we see from time and time again, and honestly, the way I started too, when I first graduated my life coaching certification and I kind of was getting out there and trying to get new clients, we see people that will spend the majority of the conversation selling them and talking the most. And what we really want to do is we want to make sure that that potential client is speaking more, is talking more, and that we are not covering them over with all of our expertise, all of our certifications, all of our wonderful processes, right? So when we talk about path to victory, we really want to talk about taking all of your hows and your special processes and putting them on the shelf for a little while and really focusing on what is the client's path to victory? What do they really want? Because we have to remember that our clients don't necessarily want to do the techniques we're going to use with them. What they want is that end result. What they want is the thing that doing the how is going to get them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm giggling because I talk to so many people, and we've evaluated and worked with so many clients where they get out there and it gets to the point, it's like, okay, well, how does this work? And so then they just start just barfing up this crazy process of, okay, first we're going to work on your gut, and then we're going to detox you, and then we're going to go into cellular regeneration, and they're going to go, and it's like, you just lose people. You just lose them and they drop off, and you're wondering why you're having a hard time having a higher enrollment rate, getting more people to want to hire you. And that's because you're confusing them. And people, when they have think about it. When you're not feeling good, the most common symptom across any disease dysfunctional syndrome is fatigue. And when someone's fatigued, guess what happens to their cognitive ability, especially for themselves? Any brain energy they have, they're putting towards this stuff outside of them, either their career or their family, to make sure they're taken care of first. And when it comes to them, they're acting like a third grader. So you're putting up all this stuff, and it just makes it seem weird and whimsical and voodoo-ish and or hard or difficult or way more complicated than it needs to be. And that's where you lose them. So your path to victory is so important that you make it simple, and you make every little step of the way a mini transformation that somebody can say yes to. That when you add up those mini transformations, it equals the big transformation. Does that make sense, everybody? All right. So when we're doing this, you want to stop selling the splash. Okay. And this is, again, kind of like a good path to victory. It's not about selling. These are strategies to healing. It's all about the amount of time that they spend with you. It's not about the fancy extras or bonuses. It's not whether you see them in person or online. It's not if you have a program or price. It's not about any of that stuff, right? It doesn't matter how many visits they get. It doesn't matter how many sessions they get. It doesn't matter what crazy strategy. They don't care. The only thing they care about is, are you going to help me overcome this problem? Can you get me the result if I fully participate in your protocols? So stop selling the splash, people. I can tell you right now, when you start doing that, again, they're starting to add up in their head. Okay, well, this is worth $10 an hour. This is worth $10 an hour. This is 15, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to start comparing you against every other option out there. So you've got to differentiate yourself by not doing that. And then, well, we've been kind of talking about this, Ellie. I'm going to let you jump on this one. Disarming fire defense mechanisms.
Yeah, disarming those defenses. I mean, again, just remembering that the root of all sales objections really are about fear and doubt. And we can tell you from personal experience that when people are struggling with a health issue, there is a lot of doubt running around in there, because more than likely, a lot of them have tried a lot of different things to try to help this problem or to help heal themselves. And so a lot of times we get into this self-fulfilling prophecy that we can't be fixed or we can't be healed. And so you will find yourself up against a fair bit of doubt. And so it's really important that you are able to walk people through the doubt and through the fear to the other side so that they can see their goal and see it clearly and see how they're going to get there. Part of that process, or part of the goal, is to really be able to diffuse objections before they come up. And so you're really, taking someone on a journey, on a process, so that they can actually see step by step by step what it would be like to be working alongside you and to be working with you, right? So that, again, yes, 9 times out of 10, you will get an objection at the end, but we want to start rating those objections by their intensity or their severity. So a lot of people will have a bit of an objection, but it will be easily overcome, right? Because we also have to remember that objections are very we're programmed. We're programmed to kind of throw up these objections. And Adam, I think you should share your story about, buying the truck as an example of how we kind of automatically throw these objections up, even when we know we're going to buy something.
It's almost 3 years. Yeah. It's almost 3 years ago to the day. Yeah. So you guys remember 2020 and how amazing that was, like mid-March, we all went on lockdown, the big C, right? So what happened to the auto industry? Well, it tanked because nobody was going anywhere. Everybody was stuck at home. So people stopped buying cars. And of course, we had supply shortages, but I've been looking at this. I like Ram trucks. So I was looking at the Ram Rebel, and it was a pretty expensive truck. I'm like, it's a truck. I'm like, I don't know if I can put this much money into it. Well, they dropped the price like dramatically. Now, it wasn't here where I live in Charleston. It was about 4 hours across the state of South Carolina in Spartanburg. And I was going to drive our Jeep Cherokee up there and trade that in for this truck. So I've been talking to people through text messages and emails and on phone calls. Like, I literally knew I was going to buy this car. I get in the Jeep and I drive up there 4 hours. I park next to the Ram that I know I'm driving home because I'm trading in this vehicle. I walk inside and somebody says, "Hey, can I help you?" And I go, "I'm just looking." I'm like, what? I'm here to buy that truck. Right. But you're naturally programmed to not hand out your wallet. Mm-hmm. You're not a personal ATM for other companies. So you're naturally programmed that anytime you're in a sales environment, you know that there are people there, you're naturally programmed to put up your buyer defense mechanisms, and it automatically happens. So what Eléa's talking about doing is you've got to diffuse the objections before they surface. And you've got to do that, one, through your messaging and your marketing, and number two, in your conversations. And if you've done it really good in your messaging and marketing, they're going to be really distilled, and you'll just have a little bit to deal with in your conversations. And you've got to have the objections completely diffused before you make them an invitation to come work with you. Before you give them the investment, before you give them anything, you've got to make sure that you have those disarmed. Because if you don't, they're going to show up and, "I don't have any money," or "It's too expensive. I got to think about it. I got to talk to my wife. I got to talk to my spouse." Now, with each of those conditions, there are certain exceptions. There are some people who literally want to do it, but just don't have the funds available to them. There are some people who are in a relationship where if they spend more than $500, they have a rule that they got to talk to each other first. Okay, cool. No big deal. And then the whole think about it thing, that right there. So if you're getting those objections without the certain conditions attached to them, like I can tell you right now, and even if they tell you those things, it all comes down to fear and doubt. The root of all sales objections is, "I don't believe that this is going to work for me. You have not convinced me yet." So if you get that kind of objection, they're basically saying, "Please convince me." Mm-hmm. I have not been convinced yet. And that's not where you want to go crazy with this. And I want to give a couple examples here. I'm going to talk about Andrea, who is a client of ours that we worked with last fall. I think we started working with her in August last year, and she came in and she was transferring out of the automotive industry. And if you haven't seen my interview with her, it's here in the group or on the page. You can check it out. But basically, when Andrea came in, she didn't have anything. Like, she was just starting a business. She was starting a new career. And we were able to really kind of tap into her warm network, which she really had none. She didn't have an email list. She didn't have a Facebook business profile or an Instagram profile or anything like that. She had like a Facebook personal profile. And we helped her just invite some people over from her personal profile of only like 100 people. But it really came down to that conversation. It's like, how do I have a conversation with women about hormone imbalances to where they realize that I can help them get to the root cause? And how do I get more of them saying yes at the right price? Well, when you do it right, then she enrolled 5 clients at her new high impact price within the first 30 days. That's how powerful this stuff is. And we have Maria Castellanos, who's another client of ours from a few years ago. And this is how powerful it is. Like her very first call, her very first enrollment call, the woman read her the credit card without missing her beat and paid her $5,000 for weight loss. Mm-hmm. That's how powerful this stuff is if you learn how to do it right. So it really comes down to, look, if you've got any of those constraints, you've got the cash flow constraint, not enough cash coming in, or the profit margin is too low. I mean, lower than 60, 70%, maybe 50%, depending on the business. Or you've got those time constraints, too much time spending on the business, not in the business, or I don't have time for work outside of life. Or you've got those impact constraints, and it means you're not having the impact you want because there's not enough people coming in, or the people coming in aren't having the results you want because they're not following the protocols. You got to fix the root cause enrolling. Well, first, make sure you've got structure fixed, make sure you've got messaging fixed, make sure you've got marketing fixed, and then it comes down to enrolling, because getting people to ask what you do is the easy part. It really is, getting people to come in here. And we want to fix the root cause by doing these 3 things we just talked about: serve, not sell, follow the 5 rules of engagement, and empower the right prospects to say yes at the right price. And when you do this, well, then you have a healthy health company. If you don't do this, we see what we call metabolic business syndrome, don't we, Eléa?
Yes, absolutely. And that is, again, where your business is like, it's feeling lethargic. It's not, moving forward as quickly as you'd like. Again, there are a million different ways in which this can play out in your business, because again, remember, new clients, new patients, that's the lifeblood. That's what really allows you to, fulfill your purpose, fulfill your impact that you want to be making here in the health, industry and in the health model. So again, just really, really, really important to be focusing in on, okay, how can I make my enrollment skills better? And how can I really, really, to dive into these skill sets?
Yeah. So crash course and constraints. We have gone over a lot over the past, this mini series of 4 episodes, a couple hours of training. Remember, structure. You got to set things up so people are getting the strongest results possible in the shortest period of time. And you're reducing your patient load at the same time and your profit margin. This is what we call an impact-driven profit system. And that's what you really want to instill into your business. Then you've got part number 2. That's the messaging, communicating your true value. So anything you say in a conversation or write in an email, a post, an ad, a letter, whatever you want to do, a postcard, takes people from who the heck is this practitioner person to thank you for taking my credit card, but we're doing it with high integrity, ethically, and with a lot of compassion and heart. Then we got marketing. All right, where are we going to put the message? Structures to shop, messages to sign, marketing is where we put the sign. And then enrolling, what we just talked about today, is how to have that conversation when they do come into the store, whether it's a real one or it's proverbial or it's a phone call or it's a Zoom session or if it's in person, but you're having that conversation about what you do and helping them overcome that problem. That is super important to do, because if you want more of the right people saying yes at the right price and you want to get cash flow coming back in, you want to reduce your time constraints and you want to reduce your impact constraints, reduce those cash flow constraints, we invite you to come over to movethinksmile.com/demo, and we can sit down with you and we can literally show you the frameworks that we use with our clients. And it's going to have to do with structure. It's going to have to do with messaging. It's going to have to do with marketing. It's going to have to do with enrolling, because we take a fully functional approach to business. That means we got to make sure we look at all the cylinders working. Mm-hmm. Now, Eléa, what are we seeing out there when it comes to a lot of health and wellness practitioners is like, in fact, just a lot of businesses in general, if they're having one of those constraints, what do they usually try to fix? And it doesn't work. And it's usually just the marketing, right?
Yeah. I mean, usually it's a lot of wiggling with their price, moving their price up and down or down, down, down.
13 different packages or
lots of different packages and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, that's why we really want to make sure that, and again, I'm not saying that it's never the case that you want to lower your price for some reason, but we want to look at the sales skills first, because you might be, creating packages or reducing your price or doing all kinds of crazy stuff when you really don't need to be. You just need to be working on those enrollment muscles. And I love, Deepa actually just posted on our video here that this is a great reinforcement about enrollment. She just enrolled a client this morning, a client with a lot of fear, doubt, and a lot of oh buts. So yeah, I mean, that's wonderful. Thanks so much, Deepa, for sharing that with us, because it's really, really, uplifting when you see other people, making this happen and moving the needle forward on their sales. Because again, you must have sales in your business to be able to do the incredible impact you are here to make in the health system, in the sickness model, right? Because here at Move Think Smile, we're all about tipping the scales from sickness to wellness. And so again, just really making sure you understand how important the skill set is in order to keep your business thriving.
And how it can work, because Deepa English is not her native language. She is not, from the United States of America. She came here, and if I remember right, she taught herself English, and she became a dietitian and nutritionist, and she's in Illinois, and she has followed the protocols that we're helping her with. She changed her structure of her business a little bit. She definitely changed the messaging and the marketing, but it's really having that conversation with the people. So literally she changed a little bit of structure and she kind of just bounced over to the enrolling thing, and she's enrolling people, helping them with diabetes for $3,000 or more. I mean, it's really cool stuff, guys, what happens. And if you'd like to see what might be possible for your business, come over to movethinksmile.com/demo. You're probably going to speak to myself or Eléa or just someone really close, like maybe Barb. we work really, really close with her. She's actually a former client of ours, and she has some conversations. We call her an impact specialist. So you might be speaking with her too, but it's going to be one of us. Like, we really, really take this seriously. We really make sure that you're getting high quality conversations when we're talking about the business. And like I said, we're just going to share with you the frameworks that we have. We're going to give you a demo. We're going to show you what we do. And if you think it's cool, we can talk about the options and kind of like how we work together and stuff like that. And if not, we're really good about pointing you in the right direction to someone who can help you out the best. That's how it works. So come on over to movethinksmile.com/demo and learn about our integrative marketing and functional business growth, impact-driven profit systems. All right, everybody, that's part number 4 in our 4-part series, A Crash Course in Strengths, Enrolling. Come over to movethinksmile.com/demo and let's chat soon.